Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And in support of that mission, we do these free roundtables week after week after week. This is the 592nd session. This has been going on since 2008 fall, when we started with a little experiment that then blossomed into the launching of 1 Million by 1 Million in its full form in 2010. And of course, a lot of things have happened since then. We have a lot of work that we do with LinkedIn. LinkedIn named me as one of their top 10 influencers in 2015. We have had a lot of different kinds of partnerships. Heather is here today, so I should mention that we also have been working with Udemy lately. So we have released about 30 courses on Udemy just to make it as democratic as possible for entrepreneurs everywhere, all over the world, to learn. And one of the draws of working with Udemy was to access the international reach. We have international reach ourselves, but Udemy also has very good international reach. The event is being recorded. Every single recording of our roundtables are available on our YouTube channel. You're very welcome to check them out. On Twitter, we're at 1M1M and at Romana, hashtag 1M1M. This is a roundtable, not a broadcast, so we would definitely want you to participate. We will open up the line for you to call in and talk later, a little bit later. We have scheduled programming first. Today, we're going to start the conversation with Heather Hiles, founder and managing partner of Imminent Equity. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's get you acquainted with our audience. Tell us about you, your background, what kind of, tracks and side tracks you have traveled to get to where you are today, and what you are working on with Imminent Equity. What is your investment thesis and focus?
Sure. We don't have nearly enough time to get into all of my adventures today, but I'll try to summarize a couple of them. I was born and raised in LA and raised by a single mom who set a model for me of, basically, if I set my mind to something and work really hard, I can achieve. And at the same time, she provided me a ton of freedom to experiment and tinker and build and create and play as much as I desired. And so I say that to say that I think I was born an entrepreneur, probably a social entrepreneur, because everything that I do is to try to solve what I think is a really important big problem. And so that's the through line that one can actually plot through my eclectic career. In my journey, I found myself attending UC Berkeley as an undergraduate. Initially, I was recruited to play basketball, turned down a scholarship, worked my way through college, where two things were impressed upon me. One is that there were lots of opportunity gaps in the world, and I became very passionate about closing opportunity gaps. And I learned through my role models that I could make a difference if I put the effort in. And I also got the bug about computing and technology, and just was stunned by the scale of impact one can have through technology. And so it's definitely one of the toolkits that I've used throughout my creation process. I've created a couple of nonprofits in the past. One that I do have an MBA in finance from Yale University. So one of my toolkits is finance. But I also, the first nonprofit I built, I used learning technology to help build hard skills, share hard skills with women who are formerly on welfare, and helped 11,000 women formerly on welfare get hired into living wage jobs. I then built a fintech platform that would help working poor people achieve and obtain their first assets, either home ownership, starting a business, or additional education. And we've had over 30,000 San Franciscans now acquire their first assets. I then realized I wanted to build a for-profit tech company. And so after I had a consulting business for a decade, I launched my first tech company in 2012. And it was called Pathbright, which were the first cloud-based portfolios. I sold it at the end of 2015. So I had the whole experience from conceiving an idea in my head, doing the research to figure out why I wanted to build these cloud-based digital portfolios, and then going from an app to building enterprise software, selling into the college market, and having 6 million people on our platform, and then selling the company. So kind of all those experiences from A to Z I've had. Unfortunately, I was also, from 2012 through 2018, the Black woman who had raised the most venture capital. And it was too sad and embarrassing for me to talk about back then, because while $12 million was a lot of money, and that's what I raised, it still was a drop in the bucket compared to what my white male counterparts were doing in Silicon Valley. And to this day, still only 1% of venture-backed founders are Black, and something like 0.03 percent of venture-backed founders are Black women in the U.S. And so we have really bad stats, and it was so heartbreaking that, like I said, I couldn't really talk about it, deal with it then. I wound up working with Bill and Melinda Gates at their foundation and did a lot of investing and a lot of learning about the investment process, and really realized I love capacity building, scaling startups, and investing in them. And so that's what led in part to me being a co-founder of a fund called Black Ops Ventures, which I was managing partner of, and got it up and running. And that one, the investment thesis there was 100% of the money we're investing is into Black founded tech companies, because there's such a poor, there's such a lack of efficiency of capital going to Black founders. Now that's being run by my partners very, very well. And I can get back to what I initially intended to do, which is Imminent Equity. I'll be really in the saddle with that the beginning of next year. And what we're doing there is we're bringing imminent technologies into slower companies that are slowing in their growth, losing market dominance, and revitalizing them with new technologies. I did deep research and am a huge, advocate and fan of everything from blockchain to the great opportunities with AI and VR and AR, and will be, as other new emerging technologies really show their powers, applying those as well to the companies that I invest in.
Okay. Heather, I think the part that I want to kind of double click down on a bit is what you talked about Black entrepreneurs. As you know, this is an entrepreneur platform.
Yes.
So I want to hear more from you about your experience with Black Ops Ventures, and what is the gating item? What is it, that there aren't enough Black founders starting up?
No,
is it
that's not the problem.
bias against Black founders?
It's
what
racism.
is your analysis of the issue?
It's pure and simple, it's racism. Actually, Black founders have 2x the outcomes at every stage of companies, of startup life, of their white counterparts. So it's not that that Black founders of tech companies don't exist. It's not that they don't have decent outcomes to invest in. It's the exact opposite of that. It's pure and simple that we, because of how we got to this country, how it was at one point in time illegal for us to read and write, that we have been kept out of top tier educational institutions, and we start so far behind the line with multi-generational wealth being created by white males predominantly in this country, that we just are so far behind that we are playing catch up, and that we don't have the networks, and we don't have intergenerational, not only wealth in terms of money, but in terms of knowledge of how to build companies, how to build wealth, how to build it over generations, that we are just so far behind that we don't have the networks. For example, I'm selling enterprise software, but if I don't have friends, family, colleagues, people I went to school with who work at these big companies where I'd want to sell software, how in the world do I even get a meeting? And when you look at founders who are trying to not only pitch, but actually earn the confidence of an investor. And so I found myself on Sand Hill Road at the top VC firms. I found ways of getting in to pitch them, but literally I'd sit in the waiting room, and a receptionist would say to me, "Hi, can I help you?" As if, "What are you doing here?" Not as if, "Oh, who are you waiting to, which of the partners are you waiting to meet with?" And it wasn't like I was wearing a FedEx suit when I came in uniform, but that's how I was treated. And I realized that I could have been a Martian coming out of a spaceship, walking into the office, looking so incredibly out of place. And so that was my experience when I was raising venture capital. And it is changing slowly. But not only, as founders and entrepreneurs probably know, not only do you need to be able to pitch and get, actually get meetings with VCs, but then you need to inspire such confidence that that they are willing to invest millions of dollars in you. And the lack of familiarity and comfort with, who you are, where you come from, what schools you went to, who your friends are, what you eat, what you wear, all the things make these boundaries that even if you have the best business model in the world, there's such a lack of knowledge and pattern recognition that it's almost impossible to get folks like that to write the checks, because most, I'm just going to speak, I'm generalizing for Silicon Valley right now, but most of the VCs there went to Stanford, were at this time all wearing khakis or jeans with a certain kind of button-down shirt with a certain kind of look, and there was a different kind of look for their administrative assistants who worked in the desks outside of their offices. And when you are in my body form and my kind of experience level, they've literally never, ever met somebody like me. And it's too much to get through that chasm of difference to instill the confidence when they go, "Oh, I know Dan. We went to Stanford Business School together. Our kids go to the same school, and we go cycling on the weekends together. I know he's of great character, and I know he'll figure this out, and I'm totally comfortable with that." And that's a human trait and set of characteristics that we all have. We have certain people and types of folks that we're comfortable with. We know, we understand, and it is a really big, it is a chasm to get over that if you come from where I come from and where a lot of Black founders come from. And so that's I think the real nature of the problem. And I spoke to the incoming class of students at Haas Business School a couple years ago, and I looked at hundreds of folks there, and saw a very small minority of Black and brown faces, and an even smaller minority of folks who are from this country, the U.S. And I said, "How many of you are planning to get into investing?" Most hands went up. And I said, you're really at a deficit, I'm sorry to say, because you will be missing whole groups of opportunities of founders you probably have no interaction with, who are going to be creating some of the best solutions in the world. And so that's really it. And so we've been able to, at Black Ops, we were able to get many LPs from the likes of big institutions like Bank of America and JP Morgan and Northwestern Mutual, but also top tier VCs like Union Square Ventures and Andreessen Horowitz and Flybridge and others, where the VCs there realize that there are whole communities of founders that they never encounter. And they trust us because we see on an ongoing basis, I'm talking with, 15 founders a week or something like that. On an ongoing basis, we see the best and the brightest from our community, and we will invest in them and we will help them succeed.
Heather, I want to ask you a few statistic questions, and I don't know to what extent this is being tracked, but given your vantage points, you may have at least some range. How many Black founders are there in America right now, men and women?
Men and women, I don't know the latest numbers, and so I don't want to sort of misquote right now because I haven't looked at the numbers recently enough. Yeah, there are people who are collecting that information at the NAIC, and I would direct you probably to their website. Would be they just created a report.
Just a ballpark, like are we talking tens of thousands? Are we talking hundreds of thousands? There are 400,000 startups being registered in America every month right now.
Right, and so that's why I don't know what portion, but I would say that I think of the total amount of organizations that are, startups that are coming online every month, I would venture to say it's something like 7 or 8% of that number is of Black founded companies. And I don't know about Black and Brown, what the numbers are looking like. But we make up roughly about 12% of the population that is Black folks in this country. And so I think we're kind of slightly under that percentage for creating new companies, but not far out of sync with our representation in the country.
Okay, and when you look at, you talked about education and not having access to knowledge. When you look at the schools where
Yes.
technical disciplines are taught, not just the Stanfords and the MITs, but also the large, engineering schools like the University of Pennsylvania, the Indiana University, the UT Austin, and I mean, there are a lot of very large engineering programs which basically create the pipeline of trained engineers in America.
Yes.
What is the representation of Blacks in that community or in the pipeline?
Yeah, again, and I should be up to date with probably the statistics because at the Gates Foundation, I watched very carefully the CS programs throughout the country. We're poorly represented, and in the pipeline of education, and especially when you look at college and university computer science programs, we are really, really behind. The majority of Black youth today coming out of K-12 schools are behind our counterparts academically, especially from the math perspective. And so the majority of us do not have the skills to enter into CS programs. So we're very, very underrepresented. The last time I checked, we were something like 2 to 3% of the student populations in undergraduate CS programs. And so you do bring up a good point. And my experience I graduated from business school in 1995 at Yale University. And I think there were 3 of us, Black Americans, 4 actually 4 African Americans in our class at business school. So we're certainly seeing underrepresentation um, in the the business side of this of entrepreneurship as well as the technical side. So it is one of those problems where we are running faster and harder to catch up for the undereducation and under-resourced experiences we're having in our K-12, and even in college we're struggling to catch up.
So, one of the reasons why we got attracted to Udemy as a platform to work
Yes.
with
Yes.
Is because of the reach and kind of democratization, right? Okay, you have
Correct.
not gotten into a major engineering program, but you can still learn, Python or machine learning or,
That's it.
how to build startups and so forth. And there is no barrier to that entry.
Correct.
Has Udemy made an impact in the startup ecosystem?
It has, and it has been transformative for people around the world, as you're saying, and is one of the reasons that I was so thrilled to be asked to join the board of directors in 2020. We and I will say, over my 35 years of professional life now, I've become a bit of an expert in how to upskill people and prepare them for various opportunities, either academic or professional, um, or even entrepreneurship. And so I had just come from building the first statewide community college that was online, teaching actual competencies and job technical skills with underemployed people to upskill them and getting them hired into their first technical jobs. And so when I left that being the founding chancellor of Calbright College, I was able to join the board of Udemy. And Udemy right now has 50 million people on our B2C, our direct to consumer marketplace. And 80% of our courses are free, completely free. And the other 20% cost somewhere between like $40 and maybe a couple hundred per class. But one can literally take from experts in AI and blockchain and any other technical or non-technical topic you want, can literally take courses from the experts who have built and who know the industry standards par none and bar none, and anyone in the world can take these courses. And it is such a game changer to not only democratize access to the information, but also to disintermediate it, so that rather than taking a course from an academic who spent her entire life optimizing her position in academia, which is oftentimes about research, but is not about creating in industry, real time, the freshest courses, or the freshest, coding languages, etc. You really get to hear from the experts who have built code, many of them, most of them, outside of universities and colleges. So it's a very, very unique offering and very special. And it really does change the life and opportunity and trajectory for people looking to get better jobs at companies, or for the 5% of us. I've been told 5% of us worldwide are actually entrepreneurs. So it's going to be the minority, but I've met hundreds myself of entrepreneurs who have learned a skill, something they needed to learn just in time to do what they needed to do at their startup. And so there are oodles of college kids who supplement what they're learning through Udemy courses. There are professionals who need to learn new skills all the time, and they're doing that. And there are entrepreneurs who need to learn new skills immediately. And Udemy happens to have the largest library of technical courses in the world. So we really do have an offering that's affordable to everybody.
So you brought up your experience with community colleges.
Yes.
I think a lot of the Black community uses community colleges to learn, right? Is that a correct statement?
We don't, I mean, I wouldn't say proportionately more than other populations. So I wouldn't want to mislead people to say that we have a major presence in community college and not in other four-year institutions. We're underrepresented in every type of college and university system.
So I guess the question then is,
Yeah.
how do you bridge the knowledge gap in a democratized fashion, both on the technical side and on the startup business side?
Yes.
So
And
for,
mhm.
and there are a couple of ways to do that. One is these online platforms, Udemy being a very good example and a very
Yes.
good
The best.
opportunity
Yep.
for that, where
Yep.
you can get both technical knowledge and you can get business knowledge, and that's a package that can actually get you there.
Yes.
Another possibility is through community colleges, and there, I mean, the way I see it is that Udemy should work with these community colleges and set up more
Yes.
of a formal structures with, both on the technology side and on the entrepreneurship side, no?
Oh, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. The problem for most community colleges is limited budgets, a huge need, and what we were solving for was a particular problem at Calbright, which is we were focusing on working poor people, the majority were women who were single mothers who were working 3 jobs, had kids to support, and sometimes parents, and who didn't have time to invest in an AA degree or any other degree without having a better job, one job with benefits where she could actually support herself. So the problem with most community colleges is even after you have an AA, and many times even after people get bachelor's degrees, they don't find themselves getting hired any better, and they don't find themselves having industry demand capabilities. I'll give you one example. One can earn $100,000 being a Salesforce administrator. I
Yeah.
can teach you to become a Salesforce administrator in probably 4 months solid. And um, you don't need, but you can't learn Salesforce administration at a community college. So you could get an AA degree, but you still don't have a way to earn a good living. And so
But that's my point.
that's right.
You
Exactly.
can
You're making a point.
learn to be a Salesforce administration through Udemy, or
Exactly.
learn machine learning, Python
That's
programming, and
correct.
can get a very credible
Exactly.
job.
It can be supplemental. Exactly. So you're right. And we do serve actually a number of not only community colleges, but state universities and four-year colleges and universities. We also serve a lot of governments where people in different government departments need to learn the latest in cybersecurity. And once they've gotten hired and they're 10 years in the job, the world of cybersecurity is growing, unfortunately, in perpetuity right now and very rapidly. So you've got to keep fresh skills all the time. So Udemy is a great supplement to traditional education, foundational education, and to government as well as to business enterprise, where people have to learn new capabilities to stay relevant in their jobs. And that's why we have also over 8,000 companies paying for their employees to have seat licenses at Udemy so that they can keep upskilling and stay at the companies. And then there are entrepreneurs who, again, as every entrepreneur on this video understands, you've got to learn new things to do new things that you've never had to do in life. And you got to have a place where you can go that's easy, quick, affordable. You don't have time to enroll into something. And that's where a company like Udemy is really helpful. So, and most institutions are not set up to really meet the needs of entrepreneurship and what entrepreneurs need to learn, because there's so much, and ever changing.
So I've had a lot of conversations in the last 6 months with deans of universities and colleges.
Yeah.
Especially on the business side, people who are thinking of wanting to teach technology entrepreneurship.
Yes.
You know, in 1Mby1M, we happen to have probably the largest collection of case studies in technology entrepreneurship early stage.
That's wonderful.
You know, we have like thousands of case studies. We have over 3,000 hours worth of curriculum in technology entrepreneurship. Nobody has this.
Yeah.
So we are looking for a way to be able to work with these universities with a pricing model which works for them. And you brought up the issue of community colleges not having budgets. And the farther out you go, you know, like you go outside of America, people are paying a lot less for their degree programs, and then pricing becomes an issue and so forth. But I think this is a market that we would be very interested in working with Udemy to cater to, because we do know how to teach technology entrepreneurship really well.
I love
very
that.
deep level.
Yeah. Well, let's follow up about that, because as we're seeing different kinds of communities get through subscriptions and various clustering of content, their needs met in more kind of tailored way, curated way for different kinds of communities in the world of Udemy. Because you know, as you're saying, I mean, having talked and supported thousands of entrepreneurs now, it's there are certain things that everybody faces, and you know, product market fit is one of the first like big walls that every person hits, and you've either you gotta get over that, or you're gonna eventually just have to shut down. And so, you know, there are the things that really are sort of muscle memory and just what happens for all startups. Everybody faces the same kinds of challenges, and there could be a really nice, well curated sort of, you know, channel for, I think, a lot of the tech entrepreneurship content. So we should follow up on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. You know, we are just to close out on that train of thought. One of our understandings, and we work also in other minority communities where people are trying to break through biases and barriers. My nugget on that is, if you bootstrap first, get to product market fit, get to some MRR, ARR numbers, you can raise money. But that bootstrap first, raise money later wisdom has to be ingrained, and there are mechanics of doing that. So that's stuff that we have done a very good job teaching in our community, and I think it makes a real difference.
It does, and it is the only way that people of color and women will be able to raise money. You know, there's certain kinds of privileges. Right. Yeah, and so we just have to start from what we know is fact with, you know, the patterns, and help people succeed and understand. One of the things that I've seen that has been detrimental, ironically, in some ways, to especially Black women that I spend not the majority, but a lot of my time serving, is there was a track where I think it's come a little bit out of favor now, but there was a time where there were so many pitch competitions where you could win $50,000 or $25,000 for winning this competition. And I started seeing some entrepreneurs who were living off pitch money and competition money rather than sales to actual customers.
Very bad habit.
Terrible. So you could be a year down the road and you still don't have customers.
You haven't made any progress on product market fit.
Exactly. And they don't understand why they're not, you know, raising money and stuff. It's because you don't have actual customers and revenue. And so those are the kinds of things we have to watch for our community and make sure people don't get confused with what's happening.
Yeah. Well, wonderful conversation, Heather. We'll continue offline. I'm going to invite some of the entrepreneurs to start sharing that. I don't know, do you have time to stay for some entrepreneur pitches?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So folks, I just want to set some expectations here. We are on your side. This is a safe working session. You do not need to be nervous. You do not need to be defensive. This is for you to move forward. And if you disagree with the feedback you get from us, no problem. This is your venture. You will do what you will do. You are welcome to make the mistake that we think you shouldn't make, but that's okay. Still, it's your prerogative to do whatever the hell you want with it. I think we're going to John first, is it? Maureen, could you give me a sense of, I don't see Sadula on the panel, but I do see John. So here we go. John Wooten from Atlanta, Georgia. John, over to you. Please unmute your line and tell us what you're working on.
Thanks, Ramana. And before we start, I just wanted to say I thought your presentation, your interview there was terrific, Heather. It's awesome to hear you talk about thinking about ways to distribute wealth across different groups that traditionally just don't have the same advantages as other people. And you know, that's the whole reason I even started what I'm doing here is I felt the same thing you might have felt where you're blocked out from these opportunities just because of, you know, not being born with $15 million in your bank account, which is just, it's ridiculous. And also just, you know, recently learning about this organization, Shramana, it's really, really just incredible to hear what you guys are working on with getting quality education in front of just as many people as possible. So really appreciate it. Like you guys said, my name's John Wooten. I'm a senior at Georgia Tech and talking today a little bit about Block Transfer. It's a company I've been running for about 2 years. Right now we have 4 front-end full stack developers working on building out our app at Georgia Tech. And just excited to share it a bit with you guys and get a little feedback. So nowadays, if you want to buy a stock, you send an order to your broker. Your order sends that broker to an internalization agent. They send it to a routing agent, sends it to an exchange, who sends it to a market maker, sends it to a clearing agent, sends it to a depository agent, sends it to a settling bank. And then finally, it circles back around to another broker. And this is just extremely obviously a very slow, inefficient, expensive process that is far, far, far from optimal. However, there's good news. Next slide. When a company goes public, they hire someone called a transfer agent to keep a list of all the investors on the books of the company. You might have been involved with a transfer agent if you ever had book entry stock through a direct share purchase plan or employee stock options. Next slide. And the great thing about a transfer agent, not only will they deal all your stock splits, your dividends, your proxy voting, next slide, but they also allow investors to privately trade with one another. So if you and me want to trade stock, we can do it directly with one another instead of going through all those middlemen. Next slide. Based off of the normal fees and spreads that you have with the current capital market system, we estimate about 0.5% returns are just lost to these middlemen every single year for an average portfolio. If you invest $1,000 a month for 40 years, that's over $600,000 by the time you retire. Thank you. The problem is if you and I want to trade directly and ideally avoid all these middlemen, avoid all these fees, avoid all the time it takes to process everything, even though we might not see the fees, there are a lot of those hidden fees that affect the rate of return on a portfolio. If we want to do that, we have to fill out all that paperwork we just saw and go to a bank. Both of us have to show our IDs. We have to show our account statements from the transfer agent. The banker has to verify everything with each other, and it's just an extremely slow process. You got to paper mail all that. If you could go back one slide, please. And it's just very, very, very slow. So we took that whole process and we implemented it on a distributed ledger so that investors can trade directly with one another and cut out all the fees, all the processing time, and increase their returns by trading directly on the books of public companies. Next slide. We've been registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission for just over a year now, and the regulatory response and the response from companies has been really good. And at this point, like I said, we're just building out the app now so that there's a good interface for it. And then next slide, that's about it on where we're at right now.
So John, first and foremost, for me, the pitch was not assisted by the slides at all. The slides didn't add anything to your pitch. I would strongly advise you to address that, because slide is supposed to help you, right? This is the first time I'm meeting you, this is the first time Heather is meeting you, a room full of people are meeting you for the first time. And you have a very small amount of time to get across to us what is it that you're doing. So I don't know if I got this right, but let me spit this back to you what I got and tell me if this is what you're doing. You are trying to create a peer-to-peer stock trading exchange, is that correct?
Yeah, on the books of public issuers.
So today, I don't need to worry about who's buying my stocks. If I want to sell, I don't have to worry about it. I just sell my stocks and the market kind of clears it. And you're trying to create a situation where people sell to each other and I have to find the buyers to sell my stocks. Is that what you're saying?
No, no, no. So it's the exact same process you would expect today when you submit limit orders or market orders. You just put it into the system and it finds someone for you. It matches the trade. It clears the trade. The difference, though, is that it does that all using a distributed ledger instead of using, on average, 11 middlemen that charge hidden fees and spreads that actually make your entry point worse or your sell point worse. So it's just a way of basically circumventing all the middlemen that you have to go through nowadays by trading directly on the books of public issuers.
So, but you are going to be that middleman now.
So actually, the way it's implemented is all the trading gets executed on a decentralized ledger. So we don't control any of it. None of the trading goes through us, and we are only there to represent the issuers at the very, very base level.
Okay, so I think I'm going to turn this over to Heather to give you feedback in a moment, but my sense is that there are two issues. One is the pitch itself, which needs a lot of work to explain what you're trying to do. All these icons and stuff didn't do anything for me. The picture of Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan, there's nothing. Adds nothing to this pitch. So remove all these extraneous stuff and be very precise about what is it that you're trying to do. And how does the money flow in this? Okay, if you're cutting off a certain 11 middlemen and all the financial chain of that, how are you making money? In typical exchanges, the exchange makes money of those transactions. Are you positioning yourself as an exchange? What is this company? Heather, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I would specifically, I did think the one slide where you showed the old clearing process through all these different, yeah, you can go through one more, or maybe a couple more actually. So right there. So I do think that this slide, tracing how it works now, is maybe a helpful slide. But right after it, then the other slide would be one that is describing this new business model. And if you're using blockchain to do this, immediate ledger system, then I think you have to show one slide that shows the new architecture, the new real-time clearing process that you are enabling. And I think that if you are a tech company that is bringing to market the solution, I would spend one slide describing the problem, and then this one slide that really describes the solution. And that, that from a technology perspective and a product perspective, as well as the business model part of it, which is very important, which is you may have more security, you may have real-time clearing, you may have a certain level of security and direct information and a savings of expenses, all these things. But crispness and clarity of that sort of thing, I think, is very important. And then as a startup, the other thing is I need to see, I have no idea what you're trying to raise, if you're trying to raise money. But if you're if you're pre-revenue and so you're pre-seed and you're trying to raise enough money to take your idea and build it out. I don't know that. Or if you've got revenue coming in because you have something cleared with the SEC and now you're trying to, scale your system and get more customers, and you want to raise 1 million so you can, over a 3 year time frame, like what's that going to do with your projections, your revenue and your profit margins. Like these are the nuts and bolts. I would direct you to, there are numerous resources, and I bet there are some here with 1Mby1M, but a slide deck is meant to help you tell the story and should be a standalone situation that if I want to review your deck, all the pertinent information for use of funds, what does it buy me, what are the milestones that are going to get achieved with this round of financing, like all the information is there. So I would start with,
I think a very important point, John, to note is that your slide deck doesn't stand on its own. Without your voiceover, the slide deck makes no sense. And that's not good, because anytime you get introduced to somebody, let's say we introduce you to somebody, we have to send a blurb and a pitch deck. And that pitch deck, somebody is going to review to decide whether or not to talk to you further. Right. So it's very, very important that your slide deck is solid and crisp and conveys all the fundamentals of the business. We have a lot of templates that we use on this, and we do a lot of pitch work. On this slide, you should highlight what are the different, so you talked about 11 intermediaries and percentages going out to each of those. One way to present your story is you put in what are the percentages that each of these intermediaries take, and then in your worldview, which of these you can scratch out and how much money can you, what percentage can you save there? And then the vital question, who are you? What kind of a business model is your business model? That's missing from the story. Right. That's completely missing. So we don't know whether you're a nonprofit or are you trying to be a business. If you're a business, what's your business model? All this is missing.
And Sarmana, I thought you were also going to say, who are you, John Wooten? Because
yes.
Do you have 20 years of experience in finance, and you've been at the clearinghouse, you've been one of these folks. I would love to know who you and your team are, who are building the solution, and you got to have a team slide. And if you have certain advisors or others or customers or partners that you're bringing to the table, I want to know all of that as well.
And
I will say also, closing with Ronald Reagan is going to be also a turnoff for a lot of folks. I couldn't understand that part either.
So for everybody who's listening, I have one more point that I want to add to this particular case study, and then we're going to move on to the next one, is the notion of bootstrapping. With a slide deck, as a senior undergraduate student and 4 other developers, the likelihood that you're going to raise money is very low, right? First-time entrepreneurs without bootstrapping to some level of validation, some level of traction, people don't raise money. People bootstrap to a level and then they raise money. So don't build your business assuming that you're going to get a check. You have to figure out how to bootstrap your way to some level of validation before people are going to write checks. So keep that as an absolute mantra in your back pocket. This is the way the industry works. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. This is the way the industry works.
And I think you've got to be able to let people know what you've already invested. I had built prototypes with my engineering friends, and so I had a prototype to show. I, at the very beginning, put in a total of 100,000 into the company before I ever raised a penny, and had a lot to show for it in terms of first customers and users and that sort of thing. But you always end up investing a lot before you ever raise money or get customers to pay you for something. And so making sure that people understand sort of what's in the asset side of your ledger with what you've invested in the company is very important.
Friends and family invest in concepts. Institutional investors, professional angels, they don't invest in concepts unless they know you and you have track record. That's a whole different ballgame. But for the vast majority of our audience is first-time entrepreneurs or failed entrepreneurs who haven't succeeded in getting things off the ground and are now starting to try to learn the methodology. So I think this is vast. For 99.99% of the cases, this wisdom holds that you have to bootstrap first, raise money later. Victoria is from Nigeria. And that's, by the way, one of the things I want to point out is that we are getting a lot of new entrepreneurs from Africa these days, which was not the case when we started this in 2010. We always had a lot of traction in India, and the traction in India has really gone very high at this point because India has matured as a geography, but the African market is very interesting, and there's a lot happening. There's really a lot of knowledge gap that needs to be filled in there, but the interest is really increasing in Africa. Victoria, are you able to come to the audio? Can you please unmute your line? Maureen tells me that you've had some technical issues. By the way, folks, technical issues are a part of the 1Million by 1Million life because we work with so many underserved geographies and all kinds of technical situations. We are very patient and very, very understanding of all those issues. So Maureen tells me that WebEx audio is not working very well for Victoria. You cannot hear me?
I just heard Victoria, I think. She said hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Victoria,
Yes.
come again? Your line is
Yes.
on mute though.
No, it's not anymore. It's been unmuted.
I've done that. Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, are you
Yes.
ready?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes,
Tell us what you're
I'm
working on.
ready.
Please go ahead.
All right. What?
Get
Hello,
started
can
with your
you hear
presentation.
me?
I have your slides up. Yes,
yeah.
we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Victoria, we can hear you.
All right. So, well, yeah. All right. So, first off, yeah, I can hear you too. All right. So I've been working on, well, I guess it's not able to, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Oh no, God. Hello?
Yes. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, we're listening.
Hello, can you hear me?
Keep going.
All right. Well,
Yes, keep
with
going.
the project
Please keep
I'm
going.
actually working on is StyleAStar. So StyleAStar is, well, first off, let's talk about the problem, of course. So, I mean, there are lots of people who like to show customized outfits. I mean, customized outfit using African prints, and many people who love wearing, I mean, who loves making this customized outfit for themselves because it's special and it's unique. So, but then there's a problem. The thing is, many people love to sew, but then when you actually give it to the tailors or people, sisters who make these things, well, they actually disappoint. Yeah. So most times when you give them, they either give you an excuse or another, or they actually end up ruining your attire and all of that. So those things brought together made a lot of people not to like maybe customized clothing. So that's where StyleAStar is leveraging. So yes, there are many
Victoria,
people
who is
want
the customer?
customized clothing.
Are you doing this for
And we
designers? Are you
as
doing this for
StyleAStar,
retailers? Who is the
we're willing
customer?
to give them, I mean, we're willing to put in the touch of technology.
Okay, Victoria,
Okay, well,
we are having a hard
it
time listening to
can
you.
be
or hearing you
Feature
rather.
C or B or organizations. For me, I'm looking for here. Oh no.
So, Victoria, I'm going to give you some pointers
Hello.
that you can listen to in the recording. Your audio doesn't work
Here?
very well.
Oh,
I
no.
think I have a little bit of a sense of what you are doing. So, Maureen, can you mute her line, because we can't hear her, and this is not being a very good experience for the rest of the group. So what I would suggest, Victoria, is you start learning some methodology. You can't really raise money based on what you have right now, because it's not even clear what you want to do. There are a lot of questions you're going to need to answer. Are you building a B2B business or a B2C business? Who is the customer? Are you trying to build like an e-commerce site yourself that sells directly to customers, or are you trying to build websites for designers? Are you trying to build a marketplace? So there are a few Udemy courses that I'm going to point you to get started. And by the way, these Udemy courses may cost somewhere between $80, $90, $100, but you can get it if you keep an eye on it. We offer coupons all the time. Udemy itself offers coupons. So you can get them from $10 to $15 per course. I want you to go through the e-commerce, how to build a niche e-commerce business course from 1Mby1M, one of my courses, and I want you to do the two-sided marketplaces courses. So that will give you some idea about your options. In parallel, I would like you to do the suite of bootstrapping courses on Udemy. We have about 6, 7 bootstrapping courses. That gives you some of your options of how you can bootstrap your business. And there's another set of financing courses on how investors think: pre-seed, seed, post-seed, pre-series A. There's a bunch of investor courses that you need to go through. So start getting some methodology together. There's a whole bunch of things that we have not released on Udemy yet. And if you want to learn directly from 1Mby1M on our website, that's also an option. Then you need to sign up for 1Mby1M Basic. But basically what I see in your situation is you have to learn some methodology. You need to follow templates. See, this is for all of you. You guys need to follow some pitch templates. Startups have been going on for a long time. We have learned a lot about what is required in a pitch. We do a ton of work on the positioning realm. We do a ton of work on the validation realm. All of those have methodologies. All of those have to be represented in a certain way in a credible pitch. I really think if you're a first-time entrepreneur, learning that methodology and not trying to fly blind and not trying to reinvent the wheel is important. So all that resource is available. You can go to 1Mby1M.com and start your journey there. There's a blog series that is completely free. If you're looking for inspiration, that's a great place to look for inspiration. We have the Entrepreneur Journeys book series. There are 12 case study-based books. Each of them have 12 to 16 case studies. Our entire teaching methodology is case study-based learning. We have thousands of case studies of tech entrepreneurs in different domains, and we have domain-specific modules. We have methodology-specific module, whether it's positioning, bootstrapping, etc., financing. All of that you can access through various touch points. I will go over them in a moment. These roundtables happen every week. You can come as many times as you want. You can pitch once. If you want ongoing weekly guidance, you need to join the premium program, which is our full acceleration program. And that's an annual membership fee-based program where you can get weekly guidance in calls like this. These are roundtables where we work on your project. So we do the combination of curriculum work and roundtable work where we give you the coaching on your project specifically. And then we have a terrific Rolodex. It's one of the most powerful Rolodexes in the world. You're very welcome to use that Rolodex, whether it's investor introduction, potential customer introductions, channel partner introductions. You can get all of that through the premium program. I suggest you do the self-assessment, which is a free tool on the 1M1M website. These are the due diligence questions that VCs are going to ask you. Please try to answer these questions and see if your strategy hangs together. And if you run into knowledge gaps, there are a variety of different pointers that I'm giving you next to plug those knowledge gaps. There's a bootstrapping course that's a free, less than 1 hour introduction to bootstrapping that LinkedIn had commissioned to us, and you can start there. Of course, we elaborate on all that. In Udemy, you'll find another about 30, 31 courses that we have so far released. You can go there and start your learning there. Or you can do 1M1M Basic, where you have access to our entire curriculum, all 3,000 plus hours for $99 a month. And so I suggest you go to the website, look around, premium, basic, whatever works for you, whatever learning mechanism works for you. We have lots of offerings to plug your knowledge gaps, and it's accessible from around the world. So there are FAQs, video FAQs on the website. The curriculum is described in full on the website as well. And it will also give you an idea of what you need to learn. You have to learn positioning. You will not achieve product market fit if you don't learn positioning. There is no two ways about it. You know, a lot of companies do not achieve product market fit because they don't know how to position their businesses. This is not optional. It is a must-learn core in entrepreneurship. Market sizing, you have to learn market sizing. You can't raise money without presenting a TAM analysis to your investors. We do have a policy on investor introduction. You will have to become fundable by our standards. We will help you to get there, and then we will make those introductions. So please go through the investor introduction policy. Our methodology is bootstrap first, raise money later. The mantra is do not go to investors as beggars, go as kings. That is all. In October, we have 3 more roundtables. At this point, I'm happy to take questions. Victoria, I'm happy to take more questions from you. If you want to try to do the turn on your audio. You're very, very difficult to hear. I'm not sure what's happening to your audio, but it's very difficult to hear. But if you want to type in questions in the public chat, I'm very happy to do the public chat questions as well. So you can ask your questions in the public chat.
Okay, no problem.
If you have questions, Victoria, you're a student of the Udemy class. Which class are you taking?
Hello, the fashion
I can do another
class.
The fashion class, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
Great. That's good. The fashion class, e-commerce class, and two-sided marketplaces, those are good courses for you to get going with. So you want to,
I don't know, maybe
you want to create a collection of
the audio, you can hear me.
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah.
And Maureen, I can take Ritwik slides if you want to load them up. I'll go ahead and do Ritwik as well.
Hear me.
Yes, Victoria, go ahead.
Of course. That's why.
Victoria, I suggest you type in. It's working better if you type in the public chat, and I can read your questions in the public chat and answer them. See, the questions you were asked. You say it's a B2C business. You want to do a B2C fashion business.
It's really terrible.
We can't hear
I
you.
don't
Victoria,
think
instead of trying to
you
talk, if you just type
to
in the public chat,
be
it will be a lot more
able
effective.
to hear me.
Okay, Maureen, can we switch to Ritwik? Why don't you ask Victoria to type her questions in the public chat, and I will take them in a moment. Let me work with Ritwik first. Okay, Ritwik, go ahead. What are you working on? Victoria, who is your customer? If it's a B2C business, who is your customer? What is the profile of the customer? What country is your customer in? What age group is your customer in? What kind of style? Where are you going to source the merchandise from, etc.? Ritwik, are you on the call? Where is Ritwik? Everyone who wears a personalized clothing, is this a tailoring service? Are you offering Victoria tailoring service? You have a number of tailors who are going to design personal clothing, so tailor personal clothing for people? Okay. And where are you going to sell? You can't sell everywhere. You have to decide where you're going to sell because there are customer acquisition costs involved. You have to invest customer acquisition costs to be able to acquire those customers. So where do you want to sell? Accordingly, we have to develop a customer acquisition strategy for where you're going to sell. Okay. All right. I am not seeing Ritwik. For now, you're focusing on Nigeria. Great. Nigeria, you want. All right, we'll do Ritwik next time then. I'm going to finish with Victoria and then we're going to wrap up for today, okay? Yeah, all right. You have Ritwik's slide. Why don't we put him in for next week? It's fine, Ritwik. You can work with Maureen and get on the audio next week so that you can actually have a conversation with me. Victoria, let me wrap up. So if you're trying to build a B2C e-commerce business with customized tailoring, there are such case studies in the fashion module of the course that you're doing. And if you want coaching, you can come to 1 million by 1 million and join 1 million by 1 million, but you have to make sure that you can dialogue with me. You have to get your technical side fixed. If I cannot talk to you, it will be hard for me to coach you. So you have to figure out how to call in and have a conversation with a clear audio. Okay? But I think it's a very, this business of having a tailoring service for customers in Nigeria who want to wear personalized clothing, it's a very doable business. We know how to do this business. We have seen lots of case studies of how to do this business. You can also think about how to position that business to different types of women, right? There could be positioning vis-a-vis age group, positioning vis-a-vis body size or body styles. It really depends on what kind of expertise and what kinds of specialization your tailors have. So there's a bunch of positioning elements that we should work through, and that will drive how you do customer acquisition. what kind of customers do you try to acquire, right? Let's say you're going to do social media advertising to acquire customers. You have to identify what age group are you going to go after? What kind of psychographic do you want to go after? What kind of styling do you want to go after? Is it going to be formal clothing? Is it going to be work clothing? Is it going to be tailored jackets? Is it going to be more casual clothing? Is it going to be more summer dresses? Where would you have the expertise to do? You cannot say that you're going to do anything and everything because you're going to fail. You have to figure out what you can do. Like if I tell you that, do a jacket for me, custom, that is as good as an Armani jacket, you probably won't be able to meet that expectation. So you're going to need to figure out how to do what you want to do. Okay, what is your unique strategy for that, Victoria? What is your unique strategy for that? Folks, while Victoria is typing in her answer, I want to introduce you to Irina Patterson, who will be your contact about the program. If you want to join the program, if you have questions, Irina is your contact. All right. I'm not seeing Victoria's answer. So I think I'm going to wrap up for today, and we will continue the conversation next time, okay? You can always come and ask questions in public chat and by dialing in. If you want to pitch with your full pitch, that I would say is once in the free roundtable, and then you have to switch to the premium program. Victoria, it is not so easy to do a fit-in strategy. There are lots of limitations to doing fit-in strategy, and you need to figure out where you have expertise and sell a specific type of expertise. This is where I see a big problem with the way you're thinking about it. You cannot do everything for everyone. You have to be very specific and really work within an expertise that you can then acquire customers around. And what that expertise is something that you need to think very, very carefully about, okay? That is my last advice to you for today. Before we wrap up, I hope to see you again, all of you, next time. Bye. Thank you.